Well, hello, my name's Mandy from Mandy Sorts It Out, and today is a finance video, and we will be reviewing my spending in the first week of August. I have challenged myself to stick to a budget so that I don't spend any of my savings, which I shall probably need as we come up to retirement, so I need to stop spending them. First week of August, I spent £14.52 on food. And I have to admit that the first spending on food was actually spent on the 31st of July. And I know I've already done a video that was up to and including the 31st of July. And I did not intend to spend any more money when I made that video. But what happened was I had a sale through on Vinted. I packed the item and took it to the co-op. And I knew as I was driving to the co-op, I knew that I'd go inside and get something. I started going through my head what it was that I wanted to get from the co-op. Because it wasn't that I had a specific item in mind, it was an urge to buy something. I think I was just a bit fed up of everything that I had in the house and I just wanted something different. I was thinking, well, I won't do it, I'll stop myself. And then when I put the item in the in-post locker, I thought, well, I could go and check their reduced items, because there's always a fridge of reduced items at the back. They're never reduced by a lot, less than 50%, quite often they're things I don't like, but I thought I could go and check that out. So I went and checked it out and didn't like anything and found myself wandering the shop looking for something to buy. And eventually I bought some hash browns. And part of the reason I bought these hash browns was that I have the co-op app, and I think you can get 3 different deals. You can choose the deals out of about 6. You can choose the 3 that you want. And there was a deal on co-op vegetables, including frozen. And I thought, I'm not sure that will apply to hash browns, but it did. They should have been £1.90 and I got them for £1.40, 50p off. So that was the first thing. I'm not going to make a habit of saying to you, right, this is my week, I'm not going to spend any more today so I can get in and do my video a bit early and then go and spend money. I'm really not going to make a habit of that. But I couldn't stop myself. I just kept thinking, it doesn't matter, it's only a tiny bit of money, it doesn't matter. But I've been feeling really guilty about it, so that's something I've learnt. And then I went to Aldi and I bought various bits of food, some to bring away with me. I'm away at the moment, this is not my house, it's somebody else's house, and that cost me £12.37. I spent £11.20 on incidentals, and that was on coffees and cakes with my son. We met at a garden centre for a catch-up. I spent £5.08 on Vinted on clothes, and I've spent £723 on housing costs. That's my rent of £695 and £28 on broadband. And then I filled the car up before I travelled down to family, and that cost me £24.34. And I think because very little of that was spent this month, I think I might actually add that to my Bristol expenses, because I didn't fill the car up when I returned from Bristol. And I think that expense needs to be part of those Bristol expenses. And I usually have £60 to spend per trip, and I didn't spend that last time. So I just think that ought to come out of there, or at least £20 of it, even if the £4.34 stays in petrol costs. I had income of £4 on a vintage sale. Hi again, just moved venue. Trying to find somewhere that I can work comfortably, because I haven't got a tripod here, so I'm just making do. That was £30.06 of monthly expenses, which is the food, the incidental and the petrol of £4.34. And I'll put all this up as usual. So I've still got £190.94 of my monthly expenses, which is good because I'm going to be needing them. I'm going to have some unexpected expenditure over the next few months, 2 or 3 months. So I've been trying to figure out how to manage that, and I'll talk about that later. So on my monthly, yeah, looking good. On my yearly as well, not looking quite so good. I normally, by the 7th, I would normally have my rent from my overseas property that's rented out, and I didn't by the 7th. So that made me a little uncomfortable when I was looking at these figures. you'll see that my spend from the year from 1st of May to 2025 to 30th of April 2026 is £4,560.88, and my income for that same period is £4,857.91. That's because I paid the rent, so my rent is paid to date. But, looking at that, I had slightly less than £300 in hand, and I was a bit anxious about that, but luckily my rent came through the following day on the 8th. That's the latest it's come through ever in the 3 years since I moved to the UK. Yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking. Also, my house is rented out on an annual lease, and that ends at the end of August. And I contacted the property managers and asked if they were aware if the tenants wanted to renew the lease. And they said, oh, we'll ask them. And I was really quite shocked because I thought it would have been dealt with by now. I was assuming they'd say it's in process, we're in negotiations or whatever. But no, it was, oh, we'll ask them. And I thought, that's leaving it a bit fine. That's leaving it a bit fine when it's the lease ends at the end of August. A bit worried about that. Yeah, it does look a bit scary. But thankfully, I was able to pay the rent out of previous month's income. Now, to talk about the additional expenditure that's coming my way. I've come down to help a family member. I'm in their house at the moment. They have asked that I come down more frequently over the next few months. I usually come down once a month. I think it's important to support this family member with doing that. I'm also a little bit... I'm a bit concerned because I have had weeks of feeling extremely fatigued and feeling that I'm not really able to even drive to the nearest town to get shopping because I'm not sure that I'd be safe on the roads. So committing to driving down to support this family member is a bit scary. But I want to offer the support, and I have said to them, obviously, that it's an additional cost because there will be a petrol cost. At the moment, I'm anticipating that I will be coming down more than once a month and I will be funding more than once a month. And last month I came down and managed that within my monthly budget of £221. So I'm hoping that I can use my Bristol pot to fund one trip a month, and I can use my monthly pot to fund another trip. The funding for this trip should come out of the Bristol pot. So I will look at that. I feel like I'm in a bit of a mess, to be honest with you, and I'm sorry that this isn't clearer, but I'm not really sure how to go against this. I mean, the money all comes out of the same pot eventually. It all comes out of the same income, but I just need to make sure that I can manage it, really. I mean, it has occurred to me that if I go over my monthly budget these few months while I'm helping out the family member, then this means that the trip to see my friend next year, which is in my budget, will probably become unaffordable and I will have to forgo it. And to some extent, that's fine because the person I'm visiting is somebody who would always put family first. And they would completely understand me needing to put family first at this time. So there won't be any hard feelings if I can't make that trip. And that trip was never set in stone anyway. It was always, it would be nice if. So I do have some flexibility there, but that is the only flexibility I've really got in the budget because I will be going to visit my son overseas in November. The flights are booked, I will be going. So I will be spending some money, although I can make that a lot less spendy when I'm there if I need to. I've already promised to take my son out for his birthday because that's why I'm going over. But there are other things that I can say to people. I can't meet you for a meal. I can only meet you for a coffee, or I can only meet you for a walk. That sort of thing. I can meet you for a drink in a pub. So there are things I can do to adjust the budget so that I can afford to do this. I'm aware that if I take the slightly longer route home, it uses less petrol. So I've started doing that now, and that is saving me some money. It's a fairly long trip, so I used to not do that, but I am doing that now, and actually I'm preferring that route now. So yeah, there might be some changes. There might be some overspending on budget items, particularly petrol in my monthlies. So my monthlies might be overspent. And maybe that's something that, if I'm really, really careful, I can rectify in later months so that I don't overspend on those things in the budget as a whole. I'm really not sure. So everything's up in the air at the moment, and I'm trying to work out what I do. So I feel like this is not my normal video of explaining how things go, because I've normally got things pretty tied down. And this has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works, if you like. But family do come first, and changes do happen, and adjustments need to be made. And this is just what I'm trying to figure out. What is the best way to deal with this? It's not just financial. I have to ensure that my needs are met as well as his family members, and coming down more often could impinge on that. So there's a lot of things I'm thinking through. But I think it's okay. I think it's going to be okay, because I do have some flexibility in the budget, as I've said, and I want to help. I want to help the family member. So I'm going to leave it there and see if I can make a video out of all this randomness. Anyway, if I manage to make a video out of this, thank you very much for watching. Oh, I want to say I've had some more subscribers lately. I had a day where people just kept subscribing, and I wasn't sure what was happening to make that happen, what initiated that. But I want to thank everyone who's joined me, and I hope you enjoy my content. And I'm not normally as chaotic as I am normally more organised, but yes, this is throwing a bit of a spanner in the works, and it's going to be a bit more of a challenge than I thought because of this spanner in the works. That doesn't mean it's not doable. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Bye.